I am Dr. Mustafa Aziz Shuman. Welcome you all in our first program of this year. We can call it the beginning of our academic year. Today's our program will be on treatment on limited stage small cell carcinoma. Today our faculty will be Dr. Arman Reza Choudhury, who is a consultant of radiation oncology working in Delta Medical College and Hospital. Before going to the main program, I would like to request our chairperson, Professor Mohammad M. Haisar, to inaugurate the program. Professor M. Haisar.
Thank you so much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Happy New Year to everybody. It's a great occasion for us today to have the first session of our year's webinar beyond limited stage small cell lung cancer. The speaker is Arman Reza. Without delay, I think we should start. I want to start the webinar.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Dr. Arman Reza Choudhury. Over to you, Dr. Arman.
Thank you, Dr. Mustafa Aziz Shuman, and as well as all the participants. I'm just sharing my screen. Okay. So, welcome you all in this today's regular CME program by Oncology Club. And as well as Happy New Year for 2021 to all of you. So today my topic is management of limited stage small cell lung cancer. And as per my introduction, already Dr. Shuman has told. So the introduction of the presentation, the incidence of small cell lung cancer is actually declining. And initially it was around 25%, but the paper published in JCO in 2006 that about 10 to 15% of all lung cancer cases are now found as small cell lung cancer. And majority of the patients, more than 95% of the patients are associated with tobacco exposure. And most of the patient presented to us as stage 4 or extensive stage disease. Only 1/3 of the patient presented to us as stage 1 to stage 3, that is also called the limited stage disease. Excellent response to chemotherapy and radiotherapy was found, but the unfortunate thing is a few patients will be the long-term survivors because of especially the two factors. First of all, high risk of local recurrence as well as high risk of distant metastasis, especially brain metastasis. So staging of small cell lung cancer, it is very much important. In any cancer, staging is very much important because the survival depends on the staging. So here we can see it's a data from a paper that if it is early stage disease, the median survival is good, like around 2 years or around 2 years. If it is in case of a stage 1 disease, in a stage 2 disease, it is around 1 year, but we can see most of the patient presented to us as a stage 4 disease, and the median survival is only 6 months. So staging is important to define the survival. So regarding staging system, small cell lung cancer have some staging system. First of all, the VALCSG, that is Veterans Affairs Lung Cancer Study Group, they introduced the lung cancer staging system, small cell lung cancer staging system in 1974. And IASLC, that is International Association for the Study of Lung Cancer, they initially introduced in 1989, and after that they do the modification in 2018. And AJCC, that is American Joint Committee on Cancer, they introduced the staging system 2010. So if you want to see, or if you want to just get some idea about the staging system in case of limited stage disease, according to VALCSG staging system, when should we call the limited stage disease? Here you can see the blue box here, the unilateral tumor, the unilateral hilar or mediastinal lymph nodes, unilateral supraclavicular lymph nodes that can be encompassed in a single radiotherapy portal. This is called limited stage disease according to VALG staging system. And what is extensive stage disease? The tumor beyond this is called the extensive stage disease, like contralateral supraclav, contralateral mediastinal, contralateral hilar, or malignant pleural effusion. These are denotes that as extensive stage disease. ISLC have some different thought. They staged small cell lung cancer limited stage disease in such a way, like unilateral tumor, unilateral hilar or mediastinal or supraclavicular lymph nodes, contralateral mediastinal lymph nodes, contralateral supraclavicular lymph nodes, even malignant pleural effusion. These are all, if it is encompassed in a single radiotherapy portal, this is called limited stage disease according to ISLC. And contralateral hilar or contralateral any lung nodule, these are denotes as extensive stage disease. And as per AJCC staging, they stage like non-small cell lung cancer, like stage 1 to stage 3 disease. This is limited stage, and stage 4 disease, that is extensive stage disease. So whatever the T, whatever the N, but if the M is 0, that is early stage, that is limited stage disease. And contralateral lung nodule, we know that it is stage 4 disease. So this is as defined as extensive stage disease. So different staging systems we have seen already. So which staging system we should use actually? So it is suggested that to use 8th edition of AJCC as for non-small cell lung cancer should be used for better prognostic information for T and N staging. And if we can identify better nodal staging, it will help us to give conformal radiotherapy technique. Okay, so this is the nodal group. We know these there are 14 nodal groups regarding the lung cancer. This will help us in lung cancer contouring and management. And regarding treatment of limited stage disease, so how the treatment evolution was happening. So initially in 1920s, the small cell lung cancer was treated with surgery. Then in 1960s, radiotherapy has come. And in 1970s, cyclophosphamide-based chemotherapy was evolved. And in 1980s, the cisplatin-based chemotherapy was come, and it was still now the gold standard for treatment of small cell lung cancer. So it is a famous trial. It was the name of this trial is famous in the name of TURISI trial. It is actually published in New England Journal of Medicine in 1999, a very old trial, but it is the comparison between twice daily versus once daily thoracic radiotherapy in the limited stage lung cancer concurrently with cisplatin and 5-FU. And here you can see that in one arm, the once daily thoracic radiotherapy arm, 45 grade radiation was given in 33 days with 25 fraction. And in twice daily radiation arm, those 45 grade radiation was given in 19 days in 30 fractions. But the radiation dose was twice daily radiation. So 417 patients with limited stage small cell lung cancer were studied in this patient, and cisplatin, all patients with received 4 cycles of 3-weekly cisplatin and etoposide as a concurrent chemoradiation. And if you want to see the result here in once daily arm versus the BID arm, we can see here the median survival with once daily arm was 19 months, and in BID arm it was 23 months. And the 5-year survival, it is the BID arm radiotherapy gives 10% 5-year survival benefit over once daily radiotherapy. And regarding local failure, it is more in once daily arm, and local and distant failure, it is also more in once daily arm. And regarding toxicities, it was 5% versus 4%, but it is non-significant. So we can see here that the results are in favor of BID arm, but the main problem with the BID arm at that period of time, as already I have mentioned that it was in 1999, that grade 3 esophagitis. So grade 3 esophagitis was significantly more frequent with twice daily thoracic radiotherapy occurring in 27% of the patients as compared with 11% in once daily radiotherapy arm, and which was statistically significant. So what is the reason for that? What is the reason of such toxicities, and what is the solution of that problem? So the reason was, we can see here that in Turisi trial in 1999, the radiotherapy was in two-dimensional era. So at that time, for to define the radiotherapy portal, the fluoroscopic based X-ray were used. So there was no contouring, no MLC using. So lead blocks were used. So it was not so conformal, and the high dose was received by the surrounding organs, and as a result of all these, more toxicities was found at that period. So what is the solution? The solution is conformal radiotherapy. And if you want to see the comparison between the 2D, 3D and IMRT in radiotherapy, here you can see that the 2D radiotherapy, it was popular in before 1995, 3D after 1995, and now the IMRT was used. IMRT is used, and for diagnostic imaging at that time, CT was used, but for pre-treatment imaging in 2D era, fluoroscopy were used, and in case of 3D CRT and IMRT, CT scan is used. And there was no contouring, we know, but in case of 3D or IMRT, we do contouring. We can shape our field by multi-leaf collimators, and as well as we can do the segmentation also. So the better conformity or conformal radiotherapy can be produced, as well as we can save our OR more precise way in 3D or IMRT technique. So IMRT is the solution. IMRT is also a good solution to reduce the dose to the organ at risk, as well as to reduce the toxicities. So for that reason, in 2017, a paper that is called CONVERT trial, a phase 3 randomized trial, was published in Lancet Oncology, and that was concurrent once daily versus twice daily chemoradiotherapy in patients with limited disease small cell lung cancer. So why this CONVERT trial was at that time the design? Because to establish a standard regimen in the treatment of limited stage small cell lung cancer, as well as to see the toxicity and outcome data with modern radiotherapeutic technique. Because in the Turisi trial, conformal radiotherapy was not used, the 2D radiation was used. So with the use of modern radiotherapy, what is the toxicity data, what is the outcome, as well as to define or to establish a standard regimen. For these reasons, CONVERT trial was designed. So here we can see in the CONVERT trial, in one arm 45 gray radiation with 30 fraction in 19 days was given. In another arm 66 gray radiation with 33 fraction, that is conventional radiation, in 45 days was given, and cisplatin and etoposide was used as a concurrent chemoradiotherapy, concurrent chemotherapy. So if you want to see the survival, overall survival, the 2-year overall survival was 56% with BID arm, as well as with once daily radiotherapy it was 51%, and the 5-year survival was 34% with BID radiotherapy and 31% with once daily radiotherapy. And the main funda was the toxicities. So if you want to see the toxicities in case of acute toxicities, here you can see that this is for BID radiation and this is for once daily radiation. And here you can see in Turisi trial, the main problem was the grade 3 esophagitis. But here you can see with the modern use of modern radiotherapy, the esophagitis was 18%, that is 46 patients, that is 18% grade 3 esophagitis with BID arm, and 19% with once daily radiotherapy. And regarding pneumonitis, it is 1% with grade 3 pneumonitis, 1% with BID radiotherapy, and 1% same with once daily radiotherapy. So the acute adverse effects was, or acute toxicities was similar in the both the arm. And regarding late toxicities, you can see the interesting thing is the grade 1 or grade 2 toxicities was 12% esophagitis with BID arm, but it was increased about 17% with once daily radiotherapy. So the conclusion of the CONVERT trial was the radiation related toxicities were lower than expected, likely due to the use of modern radiotherapy techniques. The survival in both arms were higher than previously reported in 2DC trial, but once daily radiotherapy did not result in a superior survival or worse toxicity than BID radiotherapy. So 45 grade radiation in 30 fraction BID should continue to be regarded as standard of care. However, once daily radiotherapy can be used, 66 gray in 30 fractions can be used when as an alternative regimen when BID radiotherapy cannot be given by any reason. So now, is the timing of thoracic radiotherapy with chemotherapy is important? Yes, definitely it is important. It is a meta-analysis. It is published in Journal of Clinical Oncology in 2004, and here 7 paper was studied here, and only 1 trial is in favor of late radiotherapy. All rest of trial was in favor of early radiotherapy. So they concluded that use of early thoracic radiotherapy during the first or second cycle of cisplatin etoposide based chemotherapy is the standard of care for small cell limited stage small cell lung cancer. So now the incidence of brain metastasis in case of limited stage small cell lung cancer. We know that the small cell lung cancer is very prone for brain metastasis, and about 25% patients brain metastasis was diagnosis at the time of lung cancer diagnosis, and 33% of asymptomatic brain metastasis in patients with complete response after chemoradiotherapy in limited stage small cell lung cancer. So the solution for that is the PCI, that is prophylactic cranial irradiation. Initially, it was used from the data of ALL, and it showed the high incidence of brain relapse, more than 50%, and benefit with the PCI. And the blood-brain barrier is responsible for the lower response rates to systemic therapy in the brain. That is also called the sanctuary site, that is Abhayaranya for brain metastasis. So 2 hypotheses to use the PCI in case of small cell lung cancer. Number 1, PCI eliminates subclinical disease in the brain. That for that reason, it reduces the symptomatic brain metastasis, possibly improve the overall survival. And number 2, PCI changes the CNS microenvironment to render the brain a less receptive soil for the seeding of extracranial disease. That is also a benefit. With these 2 hypotheses, PCI is used in case of small cell lung cancer. So when should we give PCI? Here from the NCCN guideline version 1 2021, you can see that after treatment with concurrent chemoradiation in case of limited stage small cell lung cancer, if there is complete response or partial response, in the earlier DBTA we have read that near complete response, then in case of limited stage disease we can prophylactic cranial irradiation can be warranted, and it is category 1 recommendation. And in case of extensive stage disease, if complete response or partial response, then 2 options. Either we can consider PCI or we can consider the MRI brain surveillance. I think that will be discussed on another talk on extensive stage small cell lung cancer. So here's some paper on in favor of PCI in limited stage small cell lung cancer. It is an old paper of 1983. 332 patients were analyzed, and 42% incidence of CNS relapse occurred in the 176 patients who received no PCI. That is, without PCI, 42% incidence of CNS relapse. And in the group with complete response to induction chemotherapy or induction therapy, none who had received PCI experienced CNS relapse as the first site of recurrence. So PCI is important in case of limited stage small cell lung cancer with very good response, complete response or partial response. Another meta-analysis, it is 7 trials were included in this analysis, and around 987 patients, and comparison done between PCI versus no PCI, and the endpoint was overall survival. And here we can see that the disease-free survival gain at 3 years were 8.5% with PCI versus no PCI, and the overall survival gain was at 3 years was 5.4% with the use of PCI, and that is also statistically significant. And reduced brain metastasis, that is very high. Reduced brain metastasis at 3 years, it was 25.3%. So that is statistically highly significant. So another paper, Annals of Oncology in favor of PCI, and here we can see that PCI had better overall survival, and it is 3-year overall survival was 18% with PCI versus 5% with no PCI. So PCI in case of prophylactic cranial irradiation, in case of limited disease small cell lung cancer, it gives overall survival benefit. So PCI lower the brain mets, higher the brain metastasis free survival, as well as overall survival benefit, though it is not significant. So timing of PCI. So there is a thought that early PCI versus late PCI, and in case of early PCI, it means within 60 days, and in case of late PCI, it means after 60 days. So early PCI, it is a paper published in Red Journal that early PCI better control rate in the brain. And regarding doses over 30 to 35 gray into 2 gray fractions did not result in a further reduction in the brain relapse rate. So dose should be defined. And if we want to see the dose, there is a paper published in 2009 about the standard dose versus the higher dose of PCI. And here the standard dose, that is 25 gray in 10 fraction were used, and 10 fraction in 2 weeks were used, and the higher PCI like 36 gray in 18 fractions or 24 gray in 1.5 gray BID 16 days, these are used. And if you want to see the results, we can see that with the standard dose of PCI, that is 25 gray in 10 fraction, the incidence of brain metastasis was 29% versus 23%, and the overall survival was 42% versus 37%. So the interpretation was no significant reduction in the total incidence of brain metastasis, definitely, but there was a significant increase in mortality. So PCI at 25%, 25 gray should remain the standard of care in limited stage small cell lung cancer. So regarding summary, I have already mentioned that it is potential to reduce the brain metastasis. Dose is 25 gray in 10 fraction is standard. Timing, early PCI is better than late PCI, and patient with progressive disease or poor performance status do not benefit from the PCI. And actually this is my last slide regarding the role of surgery in case of small cell lung cancer. And here we can see this in case of stage 1 and stage 2A disease, there is no nodal metastasis, only T1 and T2 disease. Pathological mediastinal staging was negative. So at that situation, we can do lobectomy and mediastinal lymph node dissection or sampling in case of very early diseases. So the take-home messages from my presentation that HSCC TNM staging system is the staging of choice of treatment for the purpose, treatment purpose, and 45 gray in 30 fraction with BID radiotherapy concurrently with cisplatin and etoposide is the standard of care, and radiotherapy should be started within first or second cycle of the chemotherapy. PCI is recommended in complete or near complete response of primary, and dose of PCI is 25 gray in 10 fraction is the standard of care. So thank you, and thank you all for your patience hearing.
Thank you, Dr. Arman, for your elaborate presentation. I hope you have covered every aspects of small cell lung cancer. So now is the time for the question answer session. There are a few questions in the chat box. I hope there will be more during the course of the discussion. First question from Dr. Suryana Sultana. What will be the treatment options in limited stage if there is a SBCO? So in case of limited stage with SBCO, what would be the treatment options, Dr. Arman?
SBCO, superior vena cava obstruction with limited stage disease, definitely. If it is a superior vena cava obstruction, then we should start concurrent chemoradiation first, because we know that it is very much responsive to chemotherapy as well as radiotherapy. But if we want to start, we start first cycle with chemotherapy with cisplatin and etoposide, and during the second cycle we start the radiation, that will be also a good option for this patient, because with the chemotherapy we know that small cell lung cancer is also very chemosensitive. So with the starting with early chemotherapy, that will also help.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Arman. I hope Dr. Suryana probably got his answer. So SBCO is not going to increase any staging. So even a small lesion beside the second right side the second ribs can cause the SBCO. So as Dr. Arman rightly stated, that you can start as per the protocol saying that the concurrent CTRT. Yes, Kamal bhai.
So for SBCO, our standard teaching in the early life was big fraction radiotherapy, that to manage SBCO, then to proceed. That was the very conventional teaching.
Yes.
But the question is, when it is SBCO in small cell lung cancer or lymphoma, which is very, very chemosensitive, it is better to start with chemotherapy, manage it, and then go for radiotherapy, not to play with the fractionation of the radiation, because the next question of Dr. Suryana is what will be the radiation dose.
Yes.
So not to play with it, because we don't want to make a big fraction and change the toxicity. When it is a lymphoma or small cell lung cancer or germ cell tumor, which is very chemosensitive, we should not think of radiotherapy, rather we think of chemotherapy to tackle the SBCO first. Even in Turisi trial, they have allowed 1 to 2 cycle of induction followed by chemoradiotherapy, so it will not hamper the treatment and we can proceed.
Yes, yes, that is the right option. That SBCO you can challenge with chemotherapy. You can, if you go through the CONVERT trial, they have started radiation therapy after first cycle. That is on the 22nd days. So you can go with the defined concurrent CTRT protocol with starting the chemotherapy at the first time. So the next question, what will be the RT dose in SBCO? Dr. Arman. The radiotherapy
No, already,
in case of SBCO.
In case of SBCO means in small cell lung cancer, already Dr. Kamal bhai already answered the question, because in case of SBCO with small cell lung cancer, we can if we want to start radiotherapy, it is the conventional fractionation of radiotherapy can be given, what we normally use. But if we want to describe that we normally use larger dose in first 3 or 4 fractions, and after that we use the conventional doses in case of SBCO in other situations, like maybe 300 centigrade radiation for 4 fraction followed by 200 centigrade and proceed. In case of palliative radiotherapy, we want to give in case of SBCO. But if I'm not wrong with the question.
Okay, let me adjunct you, Dr. Arman. Usually in our academic life in Cancer Institute, we used to prescribe this higher dose radiation therapy in early phase of SBCO management. But I am not sure about its evidence. But after the first cycle chemotherapy, there is definitely there will be clinical improvement in the SBCO. In this context, yes, John Conevier is there. So I definitely, we will hear regarding this question. So after this SBCO is clinically settled down, then we can go with the long course, that is 66 into 33 fraction. That is rightly said by Dr. Kamal bhai. But SBCO patients might have poor performance status. They cannot tolerate the BID dose. Then you can go with the 66 into 33 fraction. So let me ask this question to Dr. John Conevier. Dr. John, can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah. Morning
So,
all.
so we are discussing a limited stage small cell lung cancer, which is VCO.
Yeah.
So what would be the treatment option? What if we are going for radiotherapy? What would be the dose?
So normally, SVCO, I try and get them onto their chemotherapy ASAP. So steroids and platinum etoposide doublet chemotherapy. And then it depends what their disease profile looks like. So if they've got no signs of distant metastatic disease and they start their first round of chemo, hopefully that will decompress their SVC, and that allows you then to proceed with a radical dose of radiotherapy on cycle 2 of their chemotherapy. So we normally use the BD fractionation in BARTs, 45 and 30. And as you mentioned just then, if they're not fit for BD treatment, then we use once a day fractionated radiotherapy. So, but I'd say, I can't remember the last time I treated a patient with a single fraction of radiotherapy, daily fractionated. It's normally BD.
Okay. Okay. So our next question from Dr. FM Kamaluddin. Shall we use ENI in limited stage small cell lung cancer? Is there any role of ENI, elective nodal irradiation? Arman?
No, elective nodal, there is no role of elective nodal irradiation in case of lung cancer management. We can only give radiation to the involved node.
Okay, so there is a next very tricky question asked by Kamal Bhai. After the chemotherapy, definitely you will expecting to have some response. Then after first cycle chemotherapy, you are going to start the chemotherapy on 22nd, right? So what would be the radiotherapy
Volume,
right?
radiotherapy volume in this situation, the radiotherapy volume should be the pre-treatment radiotherapy volume.
Pre-chemo.
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 Pre-chemo. Yes.
I need a comment from John here.
Yes.
Maybe I will not agree, so I need a comment from John.
Yes.
So I normally, so again, it's not in guidance, but we normally do PET scans in our small cell lung cancer patients to confirm that they have limited stage disease. And then once they've started chemotherapy, they will undoubtedly have some shrinkage. When they come to have their radiotherapy plan, we treat what we see on the plan, rather than retrospectively looking at the PET scan, etc. So with the aid of contrast, 4D, CT, whatever you've got, I'll delineate what looks like tumor, and I'll normally get it peer reviewed then by my thoracic radiologist who I work with, Steve, to make sure he agrees.
So Suman, the message is here. This is I intentionally brought this issue, not only in small cell, both in non-small cell and small cell. We should not consider the pre-chemo. If we are giving induction chemotherapy for whatever the reason is, so the radiation volume should be the post-chemo volume. Some authority believes that pre-chemo nodes they take, even it has disappeared, but never the pre-chemo parenchyma, nor in the lung.
Right.
So there is a debate about the pre-chemo nodes, but whatever the remaining tumor, even in PET or normal CT, if we have used a chemotherapy for induction, say in small cell, sometimes we intentionally use the huge nodes and big mass, give one cycle induction, so the radiation portal become very comfortable one. So there, as John said, we also practice, and this is a recommendation, not the practice, that you should treat what you see. Don't kill yourself to go back to the previous pre-chemo volume and assume that no need to treat the pre-chemo volume. And that's why we don't allow in small cell lung cancer 3-4 cycle, because if you give 3-4 cycle, maybe you will not find anything to treat. That's why 1 to 2 cycle, normally 1 cycle is given, allowed to go. So that is the message to all our colleagues, what John said, treat what you see. Except, maybe with some exception of very obvious node it was, you can take it pre-chemo, but not the, the lung volume.
So Kamal bhai, you were telling about the GTV volume. What about our CTV volume in that situation? Should we cover the pre-chemo volume? After drawing the GTV with the present status, then we give some margin. And should we cover the pre-chemo volume in our CTV?
No need.
No.
You don't need to kill yourself to cover that area. You follow the rule of CTV, whatever it covers. It may cover half of it, may not. But you should not. That is also a myth or a belief that we should cover that in CTV. No. What we don't treat, we don't treat. If we don't cover it in GTV, no need of covering it in CTV.
Okay.
So the ultimate message is that you can shrink your field after chemotherapy to the parenchymal site, but the medicinal site is still in the pre-chemo volume, right, Kamal bhai?
Yes, that's what I practice, and that there are some data in favor. But if it is a PET CT, and if you are looking at the PET CT pre-chemo, and as what John was telling, you look at the SUV, even you can omit that also. There, I mean, as he's telling, he don't consider the pre-chemo, he treat what he see. But with our era, I mean, there are some data that you can take the pre-chemo notes for medicine.
Okay. So the next question is, Dr. Arman, what would be the staging procedures? In your presentation, we didn't very clear regarding the staging procedures. So what are the modalities you would like to do in case of staging procedures?
For staging, definitely in case of lung cancer, whatever the small cell or non-small cell lung cancer, the PET CT scan is the gold standard or important modalities for staging and radiological staging of the disease, as well as what should I say? If PET CT scan is not available, we can do the CT scan of chest, abdomen, and as well as MRI of brain is also a mandatory thing in case of small cell lung cancer, because there is high prone to spread in the brain for small cell lung cancer.
So we would like to hear from John Conibeer, because in the two guidelines, that is the ESMO and the NCCN, if you go through the ESMO guidelines, and they are very reluctant about the PET CT scan, and they are saying that even you do PET CT scan, if there is any metastatic focus, you need a histological confirmation. But the NCCN guidelines, they are very famous for this PET CT scan. So what is your practice in staging limited space?
So all patients normally have a CT chest, abdomen and pelvis with contrast. And then if that suggests that it's limited stage disease, we will do a PET CT. And in fact, I did my MSc in UCH on the role of PET. And in fact, we found that it upstaged about a third of our patients from limited stage to metastatic stage. And we also do MRI imaging of the brain pre-treatment as well to understand if there's any intracranial disease. So I agree, ESMO guidance doesn't stipulate PET, but I have to say, if you're going to put a patient through BD fractionated radiotherapy, chemo, you know, if it was me, I'd want to be absolutely certain that we're treating everything we can see and not have occult metastatic disease.
Okay, what about bone marrow study? Do you routinely prescribe in staging protocol bone marrow study?
We have done a bone, so patients with diffuse uptake on PET in bone marrow. I know, you know, it doesn't happen commonly, but I know for a fact we have had a patient who's had a bone marrow to look for malignant cells, and it was confirmed. What helps is I work in a centre that's a bone marrow transplant unit as well. So getting a bone marrow for my patients isn't, well, apart from COVID at the moment, isn't normally that tricky.
But if we want to do
I want to add here, Suman.
Yes.
Regarding the PET CT, what John was telling, to me, I mean, when we are talking about the staging, that is one thing. But when we are thinking about the radiotherapy planning, PET CT make a big role in lung cancer, both in non-small cell and small cell, because we know in CT scan, we cannot identify the atelectasis from the invasion. So when we are doing a PET CT, it helps you to discard that part of parenchyma from your target volume, and also the suspected node. And you imagine that in lung, due to the movement, we are bit generous about the volume. So if we can discard any part by the help of PET CT, and at the same time, we are not taking the risk of missing in tumor. So that is the main secret. I mean, what ESMO telling, NCCN telling, that is a different thing for the staging. But as a radiation oncologist, when we are dealing, if we have the opportunity, we must do a PET CT pre-radiotherapy for planning purpose. That will be a big help for getting a real conformal field. Otherwise, we will have some doubtful area in the CT scan, and maybe either we will be over-treating or under-treating.
Very good point. Wow.
Okay, so we want to start. So the next question is from Dr. Altaf Hussain Riyad. What should be done if stable disease after definitive MORT? Should we consider PCI or switch to second line CT? So if there is stable disease with concurrent CTRT, what should be the treatment option? Dr. Arman.
So as per guideline, if there is no complete response or partial response, then there is no role of PCI. And if with the concurrent chemoradiation, the disease is not responding such and it is stable, then I would go for maybe second line chemotherapy, not PCI.
I think it would be very rare events in case of a small cell carcinoma because
it is always it is responsive.
Definitely it should have some response. But even then, if it is stable disease, then what we should do, Dr. John Conivier?
So I'd be very suspicious. I'd ask one of my colleagues to organise for a biopsy. So an EBUS to confirm that they still have disease within the area that's stable. You know, I'd find that quite unusual for it to withstand concurrent chemoradiotherapy without any change.
Okay, the next question from Dr. Asma Siddiqa. What should be the CTV in case of limited stage lung cancer and small cell disease? What should be the CTV? Dr. John Conivier.
So anywhere that's at risk of microscopic disease. So normally delineate your lung tumor, add a margin, so 5 millimeters I would normally add for a GTV to CTV margin around your primary, and then whatever your PTV margin is in your center. In terms of nodal CTV, so I would, again, it would GTV, and then I'd include areas around the nodes that are potentially at risk of microscopic extranodal spread, particularly if they've had big, bulky mediastinal lymph nodes. So typically when I come to finish drawing my my CTV, certainly in the mediastinum, it does tend to border the mediastinal structures, the normal structures that are there. So for instance, against vessel walls, esophageal walls. So that will typically become my CTV.
John, I ask you a question. Whenever you're finding a positive node, so do they take the whole station or you only take the node?
So I'll normally draw what's in the, so I will normally draw around what was PET avid, but then I will be essentially, if it's a few millimeters from the wall of a normal structure like the great vessels, then I will tailor my CTV typically to the wall of the vessel, just because if they've had bulky disease, there's always a risk, I think, that there could be microscopic cells in the extranodal fat. So I don't find it impacts greatly in terms of the dose volume histogram for lung, because it's central. So it can make the esophagus more toasty, but that's my normal practice for small cell and non-small cell typically. But I won't normally extend, go contralateral to where we're treating if it's ipsilateral disease on PET. I won't extend across the mediastinum to include areas that weren't avid on PET.
Okay, next question. Should we include ipsilateral hilum during RT? Question from Dr. Asma Siddiqa. Ipsilateral hilum, whether it will be included in the CTV or not. Ipsilateral hilum. Probably this question, that should be contralateral. Yes, probably he has mistakenly write this. Contralateral.
Yeah, as with my last answer, I wouldn't normally electively irradiate the contralateral side of the chest if there wasn't evidence of disease on PET, or if they've had an EBUS, for instance, whatever staging modalities they've had. In my experience, they often have their lung function isn't great, and so including areas that don't need to be included. At the end of the day, you're just exposing their already physiologically affected lung tissue to unnecessary radiation, in my opinion. So.
Okay, so I have another question to Dr. John Conybeare. So as per the CONVERT trial, 20% of the patients receive 6 cycles chemotherapy.
Yeah.
60% receives 4 cycles chemotherapy. So what is your routine practice? We are going for 4 cycles or 6 cycles?
So I would say 9 out of 10 cats get 4 cycles. And then there's patients who, we've all had them, you know, the young patient who's never smoked, who's got limited stage small cell, who's fit and well and has excellent organ reserve, and they get to the end of 4 and they, you know, they feel as though they can go for another 2. So I have given 6, but my normal routine practice is to aim for 4. And when I can send patients to begin with, I explain it's normally going to be 4 cycles. So 4 is normally what I go for.
So my next question regarding the radiotherapy. As per the TURISI, they have started radiotherapy from the day 1, and CONVERT they have started 22nd. So what is your suggestion regarding the starting of radiotherapy?
So I do it from day 22. So again, in the UK, you know, we're audited about the speed of chemotherapy in small cell lung cancer, ideally within 7 days. So what we'll do is normally see the patient, consent them for chemoradiotherapy, start them on 1 round of chemotherapy while they're having their radiotherapy planning, so that they can kick off cycle 2. Again, you know, it often takes quite a while to get through the radiotherapy planning process. And I think with small cell, leaving them at home, you know, potentially for 2 weeks waiting to begin, it's better, in my personal opinion, to start them on chemotherapy initially, so that there's something active going on in terms of disease control.
John, I think another thing is that once you give the first cycle chemotherapy on the start day 22, because majority of the small cell, they come with a big medicinal mass. So, I mean, it makes the life of the radiation easy, as you mentioned, that the volume becomes more palatable to make more conformal and less toxicity.
But the fractionation should be BID, right?
Preferred.
Yeah.
Fractionation.
It all slots together really nicely. You know, they get a 21-day round, then they get another 21-day round of chemo, and by the end of that cycle, that's their radiotherapy done. I really like the sort of way it slots together, you know, it's good. And then they've got 2 rounds of chemo post, the 4 PCI.
So the next question, when to give PCI?
So I normally give it in limited stage small cell patients. So once they finish their chemoradiotherapy, I will give them a couple of weeks off and then start them on PCI. And that's, again, we do upfront brain staging, I'm sure you all do, to make sure they don't have intracranial disease. There has been 1 or 2 patients I haven't given it to, and that is because they're elderly and their MRI scan might show significant small vessel disease, and they might have, you know, early on, they might have some demential medical comorbidity, and then I'm quite cautious about giving them PCI simply because of the microvascular effects of brain radiotherapy. So I know there's 1 patient who I didn't treat because my fear was it would make their dementia worse. So, but normally, routinely, 25 gray in 10 fractions. So that would be my approach.
Thank you, Dr. John Conybeare. Our another foreign faculties, respected Dr. Ullas Batra has joined, and what I should say, this is the right time for his joining. Right now, there is a question regarding the ongoing immunotherapy trial. So, is there any role of immunotherapy, particularly in limited stage small cell lung cancer? Over to you, Dr. Ullas Batra.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, everyone. And it's very cold in Delhi right now. And as you can see, it's afternoon, it's cold, and I'm in my blanket right now. Okay, so the role of immunotherapy is almost in small cell lung cancer limited stage is like the Delhi weather right now, investigational and nothing very great right now. So, but there are trials undergoing right now. There are trials undergoing for concurrent immunochemotherapies. There are trials which are replacing chemotherapy with immunotherapy. And we are participating in a trial called as the, I think, Adriatic study, in which we are going to give consolidation durvalumab or durvalumab and tremelimumab. So trials are undergoing right now, but no conclusive role as of yet.
Dr. Respected Dr. Ullas, so regarding the Stimuli trial, they have tried ipilimumab and nivolumab as a consolidate, as designed as the Pacific trial, but probably they came with a negative result, right?
Yeah.
So far, probably there is no role of this immunotherapy in limited stage lung cancer. Dr. Ullas Bhatra.
Yeah, at present, no role, investigation.
Okay.
So Ullas, I have a question that we know that in the small cell lung cancer, a very old etoposide cisplatin is still surviving. But you know, it has been replaced by taclicarbo in non-small cell, and many new things are tried. So is there any news? I mean, we know that it is a good drug, but there are some good toxicity also. We need to pay high amount of toxicity with cisplatin etoposide. So do you, from medical oncology point of view, do you have any good news for small cell?
No good news for last 30 years in small cell. Etocarbo, etosis is still the standard of care in small cell lung cancer.
Sir, what is your comment regarding irinotecan-based chemotherapy in small cell lung cancer?
So again, there was a Japanese trial which had compared, which had shown good results, but when it was compared with etocarb in extensive stage disease, the PFS and everything was normal. So we haven't really shifted to irinotecan carboplatin either in extensive stage or in late stages. The first line remains etocarb or etosis.
So my question to John and Ullas both: what is the dose of etocarbo you use for limited stage in concurrent and also in consolidation? What is the dose you use?
So there are two schedules of that. One is the standard ETO 100 milligram per meter square day 1 to day 3 and cisplatin 75 milligram per meter square split over day 1, day 2. There is another schedule which is used in non-small cell, which is day 1, 8, then 20 to 29. But then in non-small cell, we use weekly carbo much. So we use a typical Q3 weekly schedule of etosis.
John, what is your practice for limited stage BID? Because people are quite scared, and sometimes, you know, from this scariness, we reduce the dose. So, you know, when the TURISI trial was evaluated, they found that maybe the other arm didn't do good because they have also given 45 single day. So it was not a fair comparison. BID 45 and single fraction, standard fraction 45 was not a fair. So maybe that arm would have done better if it was 60 degrees. So similarly, so from the scariness of BID concurrent, if we are reducing the whatever the dose of cisplatin etoposide, maybe we are doing harm. So that's why I ask you that as you are doing routinely BID, what is your practice of dose for cisplatin etoposide? What is the protocol you use?
Normally 75 mgs of cis, and then we use IV etoposide 100 milligrams IV on day 1, but we use oral etoposide on day 2 and 3 typically. So we don't necessarily always use IV regimen day 1 to 3. So our
the
chemo
dose
day
remains the same. The dose by and large remains the same.
So oral is 200 milligrams per meter squared, oral etoposide.
Okay.
Okay. So there are no question in the chat box. Probably we are going to close this question and answer session. Is there any question? If there is any question, you can raise your hands. Otherwise, we will shift to our next program.
So, Ullas Bhatra, sir, you have mentioned that the dose of cisplatin is 75 milligram per meter square in day 1, day 8, and day 2.
We split it over day 1 and day 2.
Split it. Okay.
Split it. So it's 75 milligram square.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm just to comment something about this presentation of one. Presentation was quite good, very good. Meshna has covered almost all the field. One thing I want to suggest him that during his lecture, he has uttered several times, if you want to see, here we can see, type of statement should be avoided. You say this is study, so this person, and the name of this researcher who has done the research, such and such person has found the research. probably better. This is a suggestion I have to make to you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, sir.
We'll continue.
Thank you, sir. May I request Mr. Shumir, can you please post the quiz question in the chat box? You are requested to participate in the quiz, all the participants.
Our experience of quiz participants is very poor. Last few weeks, we are seeing that only the winner is participating almost, so they are competing among themselves. So we request that everybody should try. So the number is becoming smaller and smaller, and it finally becomes 1 or 2, then maybe we will stop.
Given, sir.
So that's why we request that more participation. So during this period, I mean, Suman, if you want, you can have some discussion with Ullas
Yes.
or John.
At first, my I want to get a suggestion from Dr. Ullas Batra. What is your routine practice in case of limited stage small cell lung cancer?
So first the staging, very importantly, a PET CT scan, including a CT scan chest and an MRI brain with contrast, definitely. After that, we usually, because the radiation and all takes time. So routinely we give the first cycle of etosis, prepare the patient for radiation and stuff like that. If the patient is a fit candidate, we do start from second cycle onwards. So first cycle of etosis, second cycle etosis with RT. Normally it will finish by around 3 to 4 cycles. If we have compromised on the dosage of etosis, then we give 2 additional cycles of etocarb-etosis. Else we will continue with the same regimen.
Okay.
We will stop at 4 cycles otherwise.
And what about PCI?
Then PCI after 2 weeks.
After 2 weeks.
And then we will do, typically we will do a CT scan chest and upper abdomen and MRI brain prior to starting PCI as well.
And what?
And then a PET CT scan maybe three months from the end of CTRT.
Yes, that is the question I am going to ask. So what would be the follow-up protocol?
Follow-up protocol.
So the 3 months, the first PET scan, I mean, my only point is whenever we are giving radiotherapy, we should wait for 2 to 3 months to really, go ahead and do a PET scan after that, because otherwise the changes will not occur very nicely. So 3 months from the end of CTRT, we do a PET scan. Follow-up visits depends upon how bad the patient is doing and all. Typically, we would do a CT scan evaluation once in 6 months' time. PET scan is very easily available, so I won't lie. I mean, it's sometimes cheaper than a CT scan. Do a PET scan as well. Although if you ask me academically, there is no role of doing a PET scan, but we do it. I'm guilty as charged of doing a PET scan once in 6 to 8 months.
Thank you, sir. Dr. John Conivier, would you add something, or you are agreed with Dr. Ullas Batra?
No, so normally we do, so we have a protocol in Barts where we work. It's normally CT with contrast. And then if that flags up anything suspicious, that'll trigger a PET. So yeah, and I have to say, there's been occasions where I put my hands up as well. I've done a PET as well, post-treatment, but it's not normally our routine practice, and it's policed pretty well in the NHS, the use of PET resources. So yeah.
So is it okay to use carboplatin with cisplatin instead of cisplatin in concurrent setting?
No. I mean,
Only
if it is a
Cisplatin.
definitive setting, etosis is definitely preferable. I mean, so there is one patient I remember which I've changed in the last 2 months. It was because of deafness. The patient came otherwise doing very, very well, but had developed deafness. So in that patient, I changed from cisplatin to carboplatin, and that too after we had finished with the 3 cycles of consolidation CTRT.
Are you very strict about this extensive stage also, or only in limited stage?
No, it's in extensive stage. Normally the performance areas will be very, very bad. In fact, what I do is if you have a PS3 or a PS4 patient, I give them weekly etocarbs because small cell lung cancer is a very chemosensitive disease. We just give them some 100 mg of etoposide, 150 mg of carboplatin, and or 200 mg, 150 mg, and call them on day 8, and the performance status does improve. So definitely, if it depends on the performance status. The patient is doing fine, cisplatin. If the patient is not doing fine, probably carboplatin is okay with me.
So I have I need a comment from John and Ullas both. we have a, inborn imprint in our brain. The small cell, no hope. Non-small cell is doing great. But if you look at the data, just the 26% from Turisi trial, 5-year survival, and CTRT in stage 2, 3 is also around 23, 26%. So I know Ullas will jump in, sir, metastatic is doing better than local advanced. That is a different story. But you see, this sometimes maybe we forget that if we can catch the train on time and really treat well, and we really know that it's limited stage, it is not that bad. Sometimes it is as good as non-small cell lung cancer. Any comment from both of you?
So I think John is busy, so I'll make a comment. So definitely, sir, when we say non-small cell is doing great, that is basically because of the biomarkers. So there's no biomarker as of yet in small cell, but there are the tremendous improvements which are actually happening in small cell lung cancer also. But we need a biomarker. In the success has happened in non-small cell because of the biomarker. We have not yet found a biomarker in non-small cell. In small cell. The second is, sir, let's not, I always tell my PGs and everyone, let's not play God. Let's give both the options to the patients, tell them the facts. It is for them to decide whether they want to take treatment, whether they don't want to take treatment. Let's not decide for my patient. I am no one to decide for my patient. I cannot decide for my wife also, sir, what to do, what to tell about the patient. So, what I do is I give the facts to them. I tell them, fine, this is the pros and cons, and then you decide. And I think that's the way evidence-based medicine practice. We should not let our prejudices and our things come in the way of making a decision for the patient. Let the patient make their own decision.
So thank you. Probably John is busy. So Shomit, can you please give the result?
Just a moment, sir.
So one information to all the participants that we will be sending a form for feedback. We are trying to compile all our 1-year activities. Last 1 year we had done in COVID, and we are trying to take a feedback from all the participants about their response, and that is very important because we are planning to write a paper on it. So we'll be taking it from the faculties and also from the participants, and this feedback will be a very important component of the paper because we are excited to see that we have done 48 events in last 1 year.
Wow.
And for
so what all have you covered, sir?
Sir, we have covered breast, lung, gynae. In gynae, we have covered all the common major diseases. So these are the main areas.
So what is next on the horizon?
Colorectal.
Also, we have covered, one week.
We have done a preceptorship on colorectal, but we are going to have a series on colorectal very soon.
Okay.
And so what we have found that out of 48, 43 was virtual. So we are seriously working to write a paper on it. So because this feedback will be very important because we want to see what is the impact of this program. In number, it was great.
My suggestions also would be to include gastroesophageal and sarcomas also, sir.
So
and then you go on to
next series, we will do the full GI. So from esophagus to total GI, we will cover.
And if you deem it right, I'll be happy to contribute in sarcomas and the upper GIs. I would be happy to contribute, sir.
So
and in the other one also.
Advanced invitation for the upper GI.
Yeah.
And no worry, we will get Sumit for the colorectal.
Yep.
No problem.
So thank you. Today's winner is Dr. Altaf Hussain Riyad. Dr. Shomit, can you please inform me how many participants are there in this today's quiz contest? How many participants?
So there were only 3 participants.
So may I request all the
2 of them got 80 out of 90. Riyad Paya, including there's another one.
Okay. But out of 26, there is only 30 participants. So may I request all the participants to please participate in this quiz contest. Otherwise, we need to think about our program design. So thank you all the foreign faculties for giving us their precious time even in this weekend. Thank you, Dr. Ullas. Thank you. Thank you.
Cold and sleepy weekend.
That's a special edition. So that's all from me. Now I request Professor Amy Heiser, our chairperson, to conclude this session. Professor Amy Heiser.
Thank you, Suman. We had a very nice afternoon with lively discussions. Also, thanks to John and Ullas for joining us. I wish this went on for you. Thank you all very much. Goodbye.
So thank you. That's all today. Shamir.